What is up, Planeswalkers? Theory6 back with some more M20 spoilers or previews of the new upcoming set. Some interesting things have been revealed today, and some of them are super spicy, so we'll get to those. First up, though, is Repeated Reverberation. 4-mana instant, you know, kind of expensive. And the wording is really strange here. When you next cast an instant, cast a sorcery, or activate a loyalty ability this turn, copy that spell or ability twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. Now, this wording is a little confusing, but I believe because it says or, not and, or that it's just the next one of these things that you do. And I think they worded it so strangely to make sure that it was clear. Next time you do A, B, or C, one of these, you get to do the thing. That said, it's 4 mana for that effect. I mean, so you don't have to. So okay, ways in which this is better than other kind of copy spell effects. You don't have to cast the spell first, right? And that might sound like it's immaterial, but if you commit to casting a spell that you can only really get enough value out of for copying it, then if it gets countered, you lose one of those copies and you've essentially lost both cards. Whereas if you cast this, you're getting copied twice and you know like kind of what's going on, and you're gonna at least have one copy because it is on cast. What's nice about this is that you do get the spell twice, right? So let's imagine a really strange world where you cast for 5 mana this and a Skewer the Critics, right? That's 9 damage for 5 mana. It's okay. You know, that's better than an equivalent on Banefire. The only difference is it costs 2 cards. And that might be a big enough reason to not run this in a burn spell or a burn list. That said, I'm curious to see if this is going to be super interesting because it also essentially triples the use of a loyalty ability. And if you can triple this on an ultimate, that's insane, right? Obviously, some ultimates are better than others, but even something just like Bolas's -3, right? If you're able to cast this, Bolas -3, get rid of that planeswalker, that creature, you essentially just paid 4 mana to deal with 3 permanents. That's not terrible. I mean, obviously it's a card, but I mean, this is even because it's when you next cast. It even works with Kefnet, right? And it makes a copy and cheaper. When you next cast an instant, okay, hear me out. Kefnet's on the board. You draw this card, pay red. You cast this. The next instant spell you cast gets copied twice. It says cast. Copy that spell. It just copies. So you cast Repeated Reverberation, the one that you actually drew. Then you have 2 Repeated Reverberations resolve. So the next time you cast a spell, you get 4 copies of it, making 5 total spells off of technically 1 card. I love it. I have to do this now. Oh, that's hilarious. I love it now. Wolf Ride a Saddle. Something that Wizards has said before is that the reason a lot of these base artifact sets, like Mirrodin, like Kaladesh, have been so busted, and they have been, is because it's really difficult to balance colorless cards because they can be put in any deck. And it's harder to evaluate the power level of each individual artifact in the contexts of each possible deck. So I think we're going to continue seeing much more colored artifacts, which I'm totally fine with. It might seem strange that an artifact is associated with the color of mana, but it's fine. I think people get used to it eventually. And I think hopefully they're going to slowly creep closer to the line of what is acceptable. For example, I think Wolf Ride a Saddle is really great in limited. I think it's a fantastic limited card. It's not standard playable, except in a wolf deck. I'm going to point that out. But what's really nice is that it's showing that Wizards is going forward much more likely to print good enchantment or good equipment. And if you've noticed, we haven't really had any good equipment in the past several sets. And I think a lot of that is because Wizards has been like, how do we make an equipment card that is good enough to see play in Standard without being so busted you see it everywhere, right? So I'm really hoping that this push to colored equipments and artifacts in general, we're going to be seeing a lot more interesting designs. As for the card itself, as I said, I think it's really awesome and limited. It is essentially a hill giant. Which I believe it's a hill giant. I think that's the people have no idea what I'm talking about. Hill giant. I hate myself. Yes, it's a hill giant. Hill giant is a 4 mana 3/3. That's all it is. So this essentially is a 4 mana in green equipment that comes in, has a 2/2. The 2/2 is immediately equipped, which is nice. And that creature has +1/+1, and even has a nice ability. It can be blocked by more than one creature. You know, it can't be ganged up on. And that's pretty cool that we are getting an equipment that handles another one of the weaknesses of equipment, is that when you play them, you've essentially done nothing to impact the board yet. So this comes with a creature. That's totally fine, right? Imagine this essentially as a 2/2 bear, right? For 2 extra mana, you get to cast and equip a 3 equip enchantment, right? Or equipment, gosh. I think it's really interesting. The equip cost is a little heavy, and that's the primary reason I think this won't see play in Standard. If this was equip cost of 2, I think it actually would be an option. I don't think it would be played, but I think it would make the Wolf tribal decks actually decent. But as is, I think it's just not good enough to make the Wolf deck good, but I think it's actually fantastic and limited. Season of Growth. So random enchantment. When a creature has a battlefield under control, scry 1. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. That seems real strange. That seems like it wants to be played in like a pump spell deck. I suppose this goes into Naya Feather. Naya Feather. But where? That deck already has to have a certain amount of cards dedicated to the creatures. It also needs a certain amount of cards dedicated to the spells that are targeting those creatures. Since that deck has these very necessary numbers of those cards, I don't know how you're going to squeeze Season of Growth in. That said, even just having this as a 2 in a deck like that means that whenever you play a creature, you get that scry, which in that deck, there's a ton of scry already, means that you're going to really be able to churn through your deck and get to the cards you need. As well as all, not just the ones that already cantrip, all of the spells that you target your own things with are going to become cantrips. And because it's on cast, just like Feather's ability, it doesn't matter if the spell gets countered, it doesn't matter if the creature is removed in response. It's just on cast, you get this trigger, and it's going to be decent. It's decently costed. If Infect didn't have to be so good or so fast and modern to compete, this would be an interesting card in Infect, but that deck doesn't want this. This is essentially only for like Naya Feather. I don't see a deck that isn't a Feather deck that also runs a bunch of pump spells in green. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Also, I don't think this is very good in limited. Scry 1. No, I don't think so. Mu Yang-Ming Sky Dancer. 1. She is gorgeous. I'm so sorry to wow, I can't even remember her name. To Vanifar, to Liliana, even Vraska, Narset. I think we may have found the new waifu. Her clothes are so cool. Her hair is gorgeous. She's so pretty. Enough about her. Let's talk about her sweet power. She's a 3 mana, 2 loyalty planeswalker. 1 blue. Ooh, kind of restrictive there. +2 until your next turn. Up to 1 target creature gets -2/-0 and loses flying. Kind of a weak +2 ability. Let's keep reading. -3. Make a 4/4 blue elemental bird creature with flying. Okay, that's decent, but you have to +2 first, and she has to survive. So she kind of protects herself with her +2 because she's giving a creature -2. Helpful. She does make a blue elemental. That's pretty cool. You know, it's not awful. -8. You get an emblem with lands you control, have tap to draw a card. Islands you control. It's so funny. I love it so much. I'm going to try and make a weird deck with this that just runs only islands. Even if I splash some colors or something, I'm only going to use the shocks, I suppose. But the -8 is hilarious. And what I like about this design is it definitely seems... Sky Dancer, right? It's a nice restrictive piece of the pie. Her ultimate doesn't really make sense with her other modes, right? The -2 is nice because it forces a creature to lose flying. And if you want to be aggressive with your -3, you make it so your opponent doesn't have at least one additional flying blocker. That's cool. The -8 is hilarious. It's not connected, which is weird, but who cares? It's cool. Scholar of the Ages. 7 mana, 3/3. You get to return 2 instant and or sorceries from your graveyard to your hand. But for 7 mana, that's a bit high. For that reason, probably just not going to see any play in Standard. And in EDH, you know, there are just other cards that do a similar thing. Where unless you're playing like a dedicated Wizards big spells deck, I don't think that this is even a consideration. In Limited, it's pretty decent because it returns your 2 best removal spells. I was going to say burn, this would say damage. It returns your best removal spells, so might be fine. So apparently, the cycle is actually 2 color, and I believe they're all Elemental Knights. This one is a 4/6 with Vigilance. Sure. It has the Terracodon effect, or the Gift Elephant, I think is what it was called, from Modern Horizons, where you blow up a non-land permanent, and then its controller makes a 3/3. This one's a golem instead of an elephant. But it's still interesting. You can blow up your own thing, which is also interesting. If you have a creature, for example, that is just not good at this point in the game, you know, you have like a lowly 1/1 or something, you can turn it into a 3/3. Not awful. It's something that could happen. It also has extra text of when it dies, you get an artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand, which seems so incredibly out of place for this card. And I really don't know why it has that necessarily. That said, for mono white EDH decks, and I'm saying mono white because it's triple white pips. I can say this in a white X deck, but for mono white, those decks do typically run a decent number of artifacts and enchantments. So maybe it's a nod to EDH, just throwing a little bit of sprinkle for the commander out there. But I don't know. It's a cool card, bomb and limited, but it's really color restrictive, so I don't actually know how good it is in limited. But We Ran Out of Punch is a hilarious name. This is a vampire. I was really disappointed when I first saw this. It's I can't remember what it's called. It's something of the Ebon Hand, Knight of the Ebon Hand or something like that. And I was really disappointed because I was hoping it was a zombie, not a vampire, but it's a vampire. And it's a 1-mana 1/2. So vampires get some toys in M20, but they're all going to be rotating in the fall. So we get like 3 months with beefed up cards? I don't know. For 3 mana, it gets +3/+3 and Death Touch until end of turn, and there's no restriction on how much you can do this. I don't know if you recall the Shade that I was talking about. Well, isn't what, a horror or a nightmare? That one that I was talking about, that also costs 3 mana, but only got +1/+1. I understand that this is a rare and that one isn't, but what the hell? Because this has more text. If any player, including yourself, lost 4 more life this turn, you get a 1/1 counter on this. You're playing vampires. There's a 2-mana vampire in Standard right now that you can use to pay 4. If you're playing vampires, and this is a 1-drop, you're probably playing a relatively aggressive deck. Now, what's really interesting about this, let's have a bit of a think here, is you can play this on turn 1, then you play the 2-mana 1/1 on turn 2, whose name I still can't remember. And then you can attack with both of them. you have a 1/2 and a 3/1. Your opponent can block the 3/1, in which case you are super fine paying a 4 life because you're probably killing their creature, you're saving your creature, and you're activating this. Or they could block your 1/2, where you just pay 3 mana, you get through for 3 damage anyway, and you make this a 4/5 on turn 3. Blood's back on the menu, boys. Inspiring Angel. It's an uncommon angel. It's 6 mana for a 4/4 flying. You get to put another 1/1 counter on a creature with flying. It's amazing and limited. I wish it didn't say another creature, but let's be fair, it'd probably be too good and limited. The art is pretty cool, to be honest. Yeah, pretty cool. I really like the minimalism of the angel's armor. I think she has a nice contrast with like the pure white wings, the kind of dark caramel skin, and the blue of the robes. I think that's really cool. Really nice, simple weapon. I like this as an uncommon angel concept. Very cool. Good card limited. Don't play this in standard. Scuttlemutt is a reprint. It's a scarecrow, which is weird, but sure. It's a 3 mana 2/2 that adds a mana of any color. That, you know, it's a creature, so that's cool. And then you can make a creature become the color or colors of your choice. That works since they're bringing protection back, but I don't know how impactful this is going to be in standard. Target creature becomes the color or colors of your choice until end of turn. Are there any things that care about color that are currently in standard? Possibly, but I don't know. Masterful Replication makes no sense to me. It's a 6 mana instant, and you can choose one. You can make 2 3/3s, or you can target an artifact, and then all of your other artifacts become a copy of that targeted artifact until end of turn. I have no idea where this would be good. In EDH, I think it's probably insane, but like, I don't think you ever use the first mode. Like in Limited, I see you only using the first mode. In Standard, I have no idea where this would go. In EDH, I see you only ever using the second mode. So I'm just really confused about this card, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Port of Sanctuary, another one of those artifact cards that has a color attached to it, which I think is a good idea from Wizards, frankly. So what some people might be confused by is since they are giving them colors to artifacts now, how does that differentiate them from just being enchantments? Essentially, what the design has been and will probably continue to be and be really focused on is that typically artifacts have activations that enchantments don't. Typically, obviously there are exceptions to this. For example, the Immortal Sun, Bolus's or Statue of the God Pharaoh, right? Those just have statics. But for the most part, the general idea is that artifacts will have activated abilities and enchantments typically don't. That said, you pay 1 and bounce a creature you control and all of its auras to your hand, or to their owner's hand, excuse me. It is target creature you control, but things go to their owner's hand. But you can only do this during your turn, and it's 1 and tap to activate. I see 0 places where this is good, even in Limited. Because it returns the aura to their owner's hand as well. So if your opponent your pacifism is in the set. If your opponent, and it's a common, if your opponent pacifies one of your creatures, and then on your turn, you bounce your creature, put that creature back into play, unless it has haste, you want to guess where your opponent's pacifism is going again? Probably your big dumb creature. I don't see the point of this card at all. I'm so confused. It's instant speed on your turn, but who cares? It's like, I don't get it. Yarok the Desecrated is another one of the cycle for the Wedge lands. This one's in Sultai, and what I really appreciate about this, well, one, I thought it was a Phyrexian, like when I first saw the art, and I couldn't read the name, but apparently this is an elemental from Zendikar, and this is from Ulamog's... I'm just going to call it Cancer. It's Ulamog's Cancer that affected Balagan. But what I really like about this card is that a lot of the is it like all except for Leovold and he's banned? I think it might be. The majority, at least, of the Sultai commanders are Graveyard Matters. You know, Muldrotha, Mimeoplasm. Oh, wait, Dami is not. The fuck am I talking about? Who knows? A lot of them are. Whatever. This one isn't, and I think it's really cool. 5 mana, 3/5. Death Touch, Lifelink. Sure. Kind of just stuff there. If any permanent, not just a creature, Entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of any permanent, not just a creature, you control to trigger. That ability triggers an additional time. Wow. I have no idea how to bust this card open, but man, it's cool. The issue is I'm committed to Muldrotha as my Sultai commander, so I'm not gonna play this card. Well, I'll probably play it in Muldrotha, because Muldrotha does have a decent amount of ETB effects. Seems decent. And then I can exchange them, you know, play with it. Yeah, okay, sure. But that said, I think that's a really cool card, especially for the fact that it doesn't deal with the graveyard, and that's what Sultai has kind of been shoehorned into. Sorin. He looks weird here. He looks too human. He also looks a little too yellow. I feel like his face needs to be more gray. Usually we see him in like a super blue hue. So I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So, you know, this is like kind of a purplish hue. This is kind of a purplish hue. This is, you could argue that's meant to be kind of a yellow hue, but, you know, he's always been kind of pasty, but purple. I guess here it's also kind of yellow, but he's always been like kind of a bluer or a purplish tone, not a yellow tone. That's why I'm really confused by the art direction here. Yeah, it's kind of strange. I love the setting. You know, I love the fact that he's got, I assume to be Avison in the background. It's an angel. Sure. But 3 mana, 4 loyalty walker. Decent. Already decent. 2+ abilities, and only a -3. So this planeswalker has no ultimate. I like planeswalkers who don't have traditional ultimates. +1. A creature you control gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. I think that's fantastic. Giving any creature just Death Touch, Lifelink, you're like, alright, I'll attack in. Choose to block if you want. Unfortunately, it, of course, is only until end of turn. You can only ever use it aggressively, but still. But if it's a vampire, more vampire support, which is cool, give it +1, or put a +1/+1 counter on it. Pretty cool. Another +1. You can sacrifice a vampire. When you do, Sorin drains your... Oh, excuse me. It's not your opponent. I thought this was your opponent when I first read it. Drain any target for 3 life. Planeswalker, creature, opponent. Doesn't matter. Drain it. And all you have to do is sacrifice a vampire, and there are plenty of ways to make vampire tokens in Standard. Ooh, this card's gonna see play. Oh, I don't even know if vampires are gonna be worth playing, though, because of the meta. I don't care. I'm playing this card in a vampire deck, because he's fucking cool. -3. You may put a vampire creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. I don't think there are any giant, like, awesome vampires. But you can still cheat something into play. So what you could do is play Arcane Adaptation, name vampires, and then all of your stuff are vampires. Will I try that? Yes. Will it be good? No. But I'll try it. Love the card. Absolutely love it. I am so intrigued by this card. This is one of the spicy cards I was talking about at the beginning of the video. 3 mana for a 7/6. Hearthstone has its 4 mana 7/7s. We got 3 mana 7/6s. At the beginning of your upkeep, discard a card. Now, usually, that would be a downside. But when zombie decks particularly, but black cards in Standard right now, in general, have a lot of synergy with the graveyard, I'm not sure that this is really a downside. Obviously, it doesn't have any evasion, doesn't have trample. Also, Randy Vargas did a great job kind of reminding me of Nils Ham, but sure. This card seems real good. We have Thud in the format, right? So theoretically, you could play this and just Thud your opponent. That's a pretty damn quick kill. Also, as I said, there are things that we don't care about putting in the graveyard. I'm curious to see if this card is going to see play. I'm going to try it somewhere. Probably in some sort of super aggressive zombies list that plans on dumping its hand pretty fast anyway. It's probably going to be a Rakdos list. I mean, just imagine turn 1 Diagraph Ghoul, let's say. Turn 2 Dreadhorde Butcher. Turn 3 this. It's pretty damn spicy. IMHO. Marauding Raptor. Another dinosaur, and another one that I think is... Is this a rare? Yeah. Another dinosaur I think is damn good. 2 mana, 2/3. Already passes the Grizzly Bear stats. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. It's even better. And then this is the downside. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, the Raptor deals 2 damage to it. If a dinosaur is dealt damage this way, the raptor gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So let's say, play this on turn 2. Your dinosaurs now cost 1 less. On turn 3, you have 3 mana, you can cast a 4 mana dinosaur. Let's say, for example, you cast Ripjaw Raptor, I think is the one that's 4 mana that draws a card. You cast Ripjaw Raptor. This deals 2 damage to it. You get to draw a card. This also becomes a 4/3, attacking on turn 3. I love it. The dinosaurs have effects that care about being damaged. This seems real damn good for a real short amount of time. I am going to play this. I'm going to play a dinosaur deck because this is awesome. I, once again, am unsure if this is going to see actual standard play, but I just love the damn card. So many good turn 3s. I mean, even turn 4s, you know, there are too many. There are literally too many. But one thing of note is that this goes infinite with Polyraptor. The issue is, it goes true infinite, because this is not a May, and Polyraptor's ability is not a May. When Polyraptor's dealt damage, you make a copy of it. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. You just make a copy. You know, let me just double check that. Polyraptor. Yeah, you just make a copy of it. So, you will need some way to end the loop. Preferably some sort of kill spell. But what's interesting is that if you find a way to stop the next Ripjaw Raptor from making a new creature, this is going to have a ton of power. So you can attack in with it. And you'll have a bunch of things if it ends up dying. So I think that deck, the Polyraptor deck, will run max Lightning Strikes, probably some other instant speed removal spells in red-green at least, to make sure you don't just lose. But if you're in a situation where you're probably just going to lose, technically you can force a tie. I don't know how Arena is going to handle this, but I believe the rules are that if there's an infinite loop, there's a tie. They may have changed that so that the person who created the infinite loop loses, but I don't know. So double check that, but I think this card is really awesome. Fry. It's the color hate card for red. 2 mana instant. This spell can't be countered. Makes sense against the blue-white decks. 5 damage to a creature or planeswalker that's white or blue. Seems good. I think the previous iteration of this card was just 5 damage to a creature that's white or blue. This one also has the can't be countered and hits planeswalkers. I think that's interesting. This is probably going to be a huge sideboard card, not only in the mono red decks, but in Grixis as well, just because of the fact that you're going to be able to really easily deal with those annoying Teferis early on. If you're not, well, it's going to be played in Grixis, because Grixis does have access to Angrath's Rampage, and this can't be countered. Right, yeah, this can't be countered. That's why it's important. I remember. Molder Vine Reclamation. 5 mana enchantment. When stuff that you have dies, you gain a life and draw a card. This card feels way too expensive. I don't think this is going to see play in Standard. I don't even think this is good enough for EDH. In Limited, I don't know if you want to... like, in Sealed, maybe you play this, because every time a creature you have dies, you get to draw a card to maybe replace it, but it feels like a do-nothing on turn 5, which doesn't seem great. I don't know if this card is even worth playing. So that last, but not least, but absolutely not least, we're getting a reprint of the Temple Cycle. With new art, I believe. Oh, wow. Triple new art? Not all of these are like that, right? No, okay. These are Scrylands. They interplay tapped. They have to, but you get to scry. That's pretty awesome. These decks typically are better, typically these cards are better for control than they are for aggro, because of the fact that control is okay sometimes with their lands entering tapped, but they're still okay for aggro, because you get to scry. I'm excited. The thing is, I think we're only getting the enemy colors. So that would be blue-red, black-green, white-black. I'm also going to show these. Blue-green. Okay, so this one had 3 as well. Red-white. Oh, and that's it. Awkward. So, Jeskai technically gets a little bit of a push with Temple of Epiphany plus Temple of Triumph. Jund, where is it? No, not Jund. I'm dumb. Abzan gets a decent push with Temple of Silence and Temple of Melody. But that's kind of what we have. Maybe Temur gets a bit of a push, but I'm curious how they're going to fix this. Because once rotation happens, we're losing the checks. Yes, because we had the isolated chaplain stuff, and then we had the common ones. So this implies to me that we're gonna get the rest of the Scrylands in the fall set, which would imply Theros, but I don't think. I'm pretty sure they said that the fall set is going to be a new set. I guess we could have the new set for a little while and not have the Scries, and then if the next set is Theros, that would make sense. Yeah, possibly. I don't know. I think it's cool. I love the art. I absolutely love the art. These cards were slept on during previews from Theros, if I recall correctly. These cards were fantastic. I can't wait for them. I think that's the last Leyline. We have White, we have Sanctity, Anticipation, Void. I'm pretty sure we've seen the red one. I just don't remember it because I'm trash. Yeah, that was the one if they target something of yours, you deal damage. Yeah, so Leyline of Combustion or something. This one is Leyline of Abundance. 4 mana, normal Leyline stuff. When you tap a creature for mana, add an additional mana. 8 mana, put a counter, a 1/1 counter, on each creature you control. Can anyone say elves? Because I can. Because I can. This seems like elf. Some sort of elf ball will actually be decent in standard. It sucks that this, like, if you don't have this in opening hand and it costs 4. But imagine if you had this in your opening hand, you go turn 1, Forest, Lino Elves. Turn 2, you have access to 3 mana. No, you have access to 4 mana. Fuck. Oh my god, this stacks too. You can play Marwyn into another 1-drop. You could play 2 mana elves. I hate elves so much, but I can't not kind of get excited for this card and the potential that it has. I love it so much. I mean, you could probably even just play this in a Simic Ramp deck, right? Like, it's whenever a creature you control taps for mana, you just get additional green. I mean, you could even play this in Sultai Ramp, right? You have Leyline Prowler. Yeah, I like this card. It's interesting. Will it see play in, like, legitimate standard? I don't know. But I'm excited to meme around with some elves. Yeah. That's the end of this. Once again, I don't even remember what I did yesterday for it. I'm just going to go to this page, say thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think about this batch of previews. Let me know what decks you're super excited about, outcoming with M20. Let me know what you all would like me to play during my preview stream over on, well, here on YouTube. That would be great. I hope you join me for it. I'll be streaming pretty much all day, I think. Not like a 24-hour stream because someone else lives here. And she would not be happy if I was streaming while she was trying to sleep. But I will be streaming a large amount for the day. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you join me on July 1st. And you know, until next time and all that, I'll be winning stuff. Also, I'm streaming today over on Twitch. Join me.